Hi everyone, Combat Reviewer here. This time reviewing on the Disney film Hocus Pocus. Now, as you know, Hocus Pocus is a 1993 fantasy comedy film that is meant to follow a trio of evil witches who are meant to be sisters. Winnie, who's kind of the smart leader, Sarah, who's kind of the dumb-witted one, as well as Mary kind of being the one who is kind of the sort of extra member to be thrown in. We see how after a butch attempt to try and use a young boy's sister, Emily, to restore their youth, we kind of see how the young boy known as Zachary manages to stop them back in 1693. And of course, we see how Zachary ends up being transformed to a cat, and we kind of see how the residents manage to find the three sisters and have them hanged. And of course, before they die, we see how Winnie places a curse that they'll one day return. And we see how 3 centuries later, we kind of see how we meet a young boy known as Max, who's kind of the sort of new kid in his new town area from Los Angeles and pretty much moved to Salem, Massachusetts. And I think Max's character sort of works. Like you can tell he's kind of annoyed that he has to move from Los Angeles and is just kind of annoyed about being seen as a joke and an outcast. And I think when you do have his love interest, Allison, I think is sort of thrown in, but at the same time, she definitely works as the voice of reason at times. And I think when you've got Max's sister, Danny, she definitely works as a sort of foil to Max, like loving Halloween. And you can tell Max does try to be the sort of supporting older brother. And we see how, after going to where the witches' houses used to be, we see how Max unintentionally lights the candle that releases the 3 witches. And of course, with the help of Zachary, who is now form of a cat, we see how they must keep the book away and stop the 3 witches from completing the same spell that will make them live forever. And of course, it's a race against time to make sure they can get through the night without the witches succeeding. And I think, in my opinion, the 3 witches do work as characters, and they do remind me of the Kanker sisters from Ed, Edd and Eddy. I think, similar to Winnie, we see how Lee and Winnie are kind of like the voices of reason, kind of the ringleader of the group. And I think, similar to Mary, I think Mary is also the one who is kind of be the second in command, sort of the one who follows their orders. And I think, similar to May, I think Sarah definitely fits that as well. Both of them kind of being slightly beautiful, but also dim-witted. And I think it's surprising how the 3 witches are basically the Kanker sisters. And I like how they kind of joke around, acting over the top, and it really works. And I like the idea that it's basically a race against time story, and it does have some emotional moments. I think when you do have Zachary, who's in the form of a cat, he does try to be a voice of moral to the characters, warning them of what can happen if the book is given back to the witches. And I think having Jason Marsden do the voice of him in his cat form does work. Like, I think when Jason Madden plays Kovu, he knows how to be the voice of reason. He knows when he kind of realizes his mistakes. And I think, in my opinion, I also do like the idea that, yeah, it's basically feels a bit like a Are You Afraid of the Dark or Goosebumps episode done right. And I think having the ending revealed that they could possibly one day return, that eventually did happen with Hocus Pocus 2. And I know people complained about it, but I might give it a go to see what the film is like. I think while Hocus Pocus isn't a bad movie, it still has that fun, over the top atmosphere. And I think looking back at the film I reviewed last year, Spooky Buddies, I think the I think Spooky Buddies copied a lot of things from Hocus Pocus. Like, yeah, character kind of returning, character as a ghost, characters kind of surviving the night and everything else. I think the problem was, I think Spooky Buddies was like a bootleg version of Hocus Pocus. I think Hocus Pocus knows when to be dark, like having the witches hanged, having them burnt to cinders, and everything else. It showed you that back in the 90s, Disney wasn't afraid to go too dark, and it really does work as a film. And I think, in my opinion, Hocus Pocus left a spell that left a good impact. So I think it deserves 2 thumbs ups. Still good and still alright. So, Comic Reviewer here, signing out.